Welcome to Media Kit. I'm a fan of the Watch Dogs games. Yes, both of them. I've noticed a trend online to bash the first game and praise the second. Now, I missed the hype and disappointment and release of Watch Dogs. I only caught up with the game early 2020 thanks to the free Game of the Week on Epic Game Store. So going in blind, I was immediately blown away by it. I'd never played in a sandbox so immersive. Sorry GTA, I haven't played you. But this is about Watch Dogs 1 and 2. Is Watch Dogs 2 really what the original game should have been? Is Watch Dogs angry and repetitive with a frustratingly bland story starring a completely forgettable lead? For context, I've finished Watch Dogs 3 times and Watch Dogs 2 twice. I'm ignoring DLC and online features. Warning, this video is not spoiler-free. On my first playthrough, the world of Watch Dogs amazed me. From the slums on the south side to the bustling business district, the middle-class suburbs, to the resort town of Pawnee and accompanying trailer park. Chicago is beautiful, filled with detail and diversity. I loved the rain, I loved the cars, I loved the rain on the cars. I didn't mind that it was a little desaturated and dingy. It's part of the game's tone. But if Chicago gets an A, the San Francisco Bay Area of Watch Dogs 2 earns 2 A's. Sure, it has a lot of the famous landmarks, but I was captivated when I wandered into some of the backyards, each individually crafted by some 3D modeler, each looking distinct, with different trees and landscaping, and this dead-sack hideout with the kitschiest front yard ever. San Francisco is just prettier. There's no question. The sequel city is better, even if it lacks a neighboring resort town. But the physical city is just the first part. What about how I can interact with the world? Setting the story aside, is it all just pretty 3D models, or can I do stuff in the world? Watch Dogs just has more to do. Side missions include criminal convoys, stopping crimes, fixer contracts, and knocking out gang members. There's human trafficking to stop, leading to a takedown of these limos. Scattered burner phones give insight into the mind of Maurice Vega, who tried to kill Aiden. Tracking a serial killer leads to a disappointing standoff, but following weapons trades leads to an epic firefight. Also digital trips, Alone, Madness, Psychedelic, and everyone's favorite, Spider Tank. It's not all gold. CTOS breaches and QR codes are so frustrating, with little payoff, I did each one once and never bothered with the rest. Mini-games include an augmented reality shooter, chess, poker, a drinking game that's kind of dumb but fun, slot machines, a shell game. There's a lot to do. Watch Dogs 2 had clothes shopping for my inner Barbie, which I was kind of into, ride sharing, trinket hunts where I invade a red zone for money, an upgrade, or a skin, and racing in the forms of drone, sailboat, dirt bike, and go-kart. It has beautifully detailed restaurants and bars. I can even buy a drink. But why? Nothing ever happens. There's nothing to do. At least in Watch Dogs, drinks gave me a focus boost. So, shopping, racing, and ride-sharing. Now, the first game had racing in the forms of time-sensitive car relocations and rally point dashes to distract police. And that brings me to one of my biggest issues between the first and second game. Car stuff. Watch Dogs 2 had almost nothing. Car buying, car skins, now I can shoot out of car windows, and there's a nitro speed boost, which is nice. But there's nothing to do with them but travel from point to point. I can do more with cars, but the game gives me no reason to. There's one mission where I stole a car from a movie set and had to escape the police. The same car is used for a rally point race later on. And I got to drive a city bus on a pickup route. Wow. That's most of the game's car stuff. Some of the most fun I had in Watch Dogs was chasing down someone and taking them out. Sometimes backup would show up, making things messier and more intense. Taking out criminal convoys before they could commit a murder was a blast. There were cars I earned by chasing them down. When I chased down Default, I had to switch vehicles twice before I could disable him. It was fun. But in Watch Dogs 2, it was all gone. I just found special cars sitting around. And aside from a 2-part mission involving the Cyberdriver car, there's no car stuff. They're just transportation. And I don't consider ride-sharing adequate replacement. Incidentally, my favorite car in both games is the Papavero, even if it's not the fastest. The thing is beautiful. That brings me to hacking. In Watch Dogs 2, it's a lot more diverse. Now a shock bomb can also be a distraction, detonated manually, or when someone gets too close. Doors can be opened, disabled, or a distraction. Cell phones can be called, hacked, and overheated. But it gets overpowered. I can also hack every car and make it drive off. It's fun, but the same skill would have destroyed all of the fun car missions in the first game. And I think that's why there are no car chases in Watch Dogs 2, except for one, and it's over too fast because I could hack the car. It's OP, and it replaced one of my favorite parts of the first game. But Marcus isn't hacking alone. Atlas and Peabody are along for the ride. I mean, the quadcopter and Jumper. The quadcopter is great at surveying the area. I wish I had it in the first game instead of having to camera hop all the time. But between its ability to hack and drop bombs, and the Jumper's ability to hotwire almost any terminal, there's almost no reason for Marcus to ever get involved. It reminds me of the Onion story about Blizzard releasing World of Warcraft, where players can play as a player playing WoW. The second time I played Watch Dogs 2, I used the drones as little as possible. The danger went up, and missions were more fun. I've heard a lot of people complain that Watch Dogs was too repetitive and that the sequel fixed that. I don't get it. A huge portion of Watch Dogs 2 is platforming. So much platforming! Marcus is always climbing buildings or trying to find ways to climb buildings to complete tasks. And when he gets there, he just has to hack another red box. This feels like 80% of the game right there. Climb and hack. Climb and hack. And much of that time it's his drones doing it. Sitara gives Marcus a mission that's entirely climbing building after building to put up DedSec posters. I skipped it on my second playthrough. It's not what I want from a Watch Dogs game. For me, Watch Dogs 2 was the more repetitive game. Watch Dogs 2 is a lot more interesting when I follow the main story. Breaking into secure facilities is when the gameplay comes alive. It's better to go in personally rather than relying on the drones, and it's even better when firefights break out. But by the final mission, I felt like, haven't I done this scenario enough? In contrast, the first Watch Dogs showed a lot of diversity in its gameplay. One of the first things I did was jump into a car and try to avoid police detection. That only comes up 2 more times in the game. It was challenging, but refreshing each time. There were a few times when I had to chase someone down and disable them, and then off the driver. About 3 times I had to guide someone to safety by moving them from shelter to shelter without letting them be seen. When Aiden gets arrested, he has to escape the police station with only his phone. I didn't feel like the gameplay was the same thing over and over. There's some platforming necessary to unlock the CTOS towers, like 7, but then it's over. How the first game handles civilians is more fitting for a game called Watch Dogs. I love that Watch Dogs 2 lets me punch people who are giving me lip. That's great. But the first game lets me prevent crimes. It lets me rescue frightened motorists caught in a firefight.
Okay, I'm okay, right?
It takes away reputation points for killing bystanders. The people matter. And while Marcus and DedSec may be helping people by taking down corporations, it's kind of disconnected. My bad driving led to a lot of innocent deaths, and no one cares. It fights against the game's for the people tone. Another issue is that Marcus's gadgets can only knock people out temporarily, but his non-lethal Thunderball takedown is a permanent knockout. But once people are knocked out, he can't touch them until they wake up. He should have the ability to zip tie people before they wake, like he does here. Briefly, I want to point out how bad the UI is in Watch Dogs 2. The phone is ugly and messy, and forces me to slide to a second screen for the rest of the apps. Aiden's phone is cleaner, and it's all there with a scroll. There's a big difference between the clean skill tree of Watch Dogs and the mess of Watch Dogs 2. How many skill points do I have to spend? It's either here, here, or here. It's here. The same screen in Watch Dogs 2. How many points? It took me a while to find it hiding in the corner. The lowest hierarchy text on the screen. It's ugly and user unfriendly. The Bay Area map is prettier, but I lost my You Are Here marker a lot. Here it is. Song Sneak kept covering up half my screen in the middle of gameplay, often while I was driving. In Watch Dogs, escaping police is difficult without drawbridges, and running away isn't the best part of any game. Both games spawn infinite police and it sucks. Hacking puzzles are interesting the first couple of times, and then it becomes a drag. Watch Dogs 2 incorporated these challenges into the architecture, but that didn't improve my feeling about them. The only time I thought it worked was in Lenny's bunker, trying to disable her bombs before they went off. Lastly is tone, story, and character. Watch Dogs is clearly going for a neo-noir tone. The seedy anti-hero mixed up in the city's underbelly of crime and corruption. No part of the game distracts from this reality. Aiden Pierce is broken and guilt-ridden for his role in his niece's death. Even though he's driven to find the people responsible, he promises his sister he'll let it go. Then he's dragged back in by his former partner when he kidnaps his sister, forcing Aiden to do his bidding to get her back. Aiden discovers who ordered the hit that killed his niece, and in the process he thwarts human traffickers, drug dealers, gangs, and murderers. It's definitely noir. Jordy and Clara are great supporting characters.
Told you. He's bringing the boys.
Thought you meant the explosives.
Then I would have said I was bringing the girls. But I brought that too.
More complicated than anyone in Watch Dogs 2. Claire's death may be genuinely sad, as did Aiden's reckoning with his sister.
All I can say is I'm sorry.
I'm not following you anymore.
Marcus would be a great friend, no question. Someone to hang a party with, but he never seems to grasp the weight of what he's in.
Nice. Mint condition. Nice.
Watch Dogs 2 wants me to care when characters are killed, or that corporations and churches are corrupt, but the DedSec members don't take anything seriously. The tone is all over the place. The game came close to something sincere when Wrench was apprehended and had his mask taken away, a huge part of his personality. But it's resolved, and the superficial Wrench is back. Satara is just bland. Josh's inclusion is both interesting and refreshing, but he's as underdeveloped as the rest of them. I love the douchebag Dushan, head of Bloom Corporation.
All you need to do is figure out an apology to my lawyers for laying your hands on me. You gonna be okay? Say yes. There you go.
Marcus is shallow, but he's a lot of fun.
So, act better. Alright, keep your chin up. Peace!
The game was at its best taking down the gang members responsible for killing Horatio, and dragged the most when DedSec started hacking facilities all over the world. It reached its most stupid when it introduced a real spider tank level. Again, tone all over the place. I'm not saying the first Watch Dogs was a perfect game. The weapon wheel sucks, Aiden's baton is his only non-lethal weapon, the game seems obsessed with solving problems through killing, and hacking those steam pipes without killing Aiden is difficult. The sequel improves on all of those, but the first game's story is sharper, the tone is consistent, the characters are more driven, there are car chases, and the gameplay is more diverse. While I do enjoy Watch Dogs 2, especially breaking into secure areas or gang HQs, the Superior City provides less to do. Characters are shallow, with goals but not much drive. Improved cars with no car-related tasks, and hacking skills that are overpowered. It was Watch Dogs that gave me the more immersive experience.